Donovan Mitchell. From the moment his name first echoed through high school gyms and empty training courts, long after everyone else went home, people knew he had something, but no one could ever predict the weight that would one day rest on his shoulders. He wasn't born the biggest, he wasn't born the most hyped, and he wasn't handed the path to greatness. He had to dig for it, fight for it, and build it brick by brick with a stubborn spirit that simply refused to quit. Growing up, Donovan felt like he was always proving himself, proving he belonged, proving he could rise above expectations, proving that the world's doubts couldn't drown out the belief burning inside him. And when he made it to the league, many still questioned him. Too small, too raw, too unlikely to become a true superstar. But Donovan Mitchell didn't hear any of that. Not because they weren't talking, but because he was too busy working. He had a fire in him that turned criticism into fuel, and every night he stepped onto the court like a man trying to outrun something no one else could see. It didn't take long for the world to learn his name. Rookie year, explosive. Second year, fearless. Every year after that, it felt like Donovan kept rewriting the script people tried to hand him. He didn't just rise in the NBA, he erupted. Those high-flying dunks, those impossible shots in the final seconds, that passion he carried like it was stitched into his jersey. Everything he did was bigger than basketball. He wasn't just playing, he was proving. And fans loved him for it. But behind the highlight reels and the celebrations, there was a quieter war happening inside him, one that rarely made the news and almost never reached the cameras. Because success demands sacrifice, and Donovan gave more of himself than the world ever knew. Late nights icing injuries no one talked about, early mornings where his body begged him to slow down, but he pushed anyway. Moments in hotel rooms between back-to-back games where he sat alone, exhausted, wondering if he was doing enough, if he was enough, if he could carry the weight everyone placed on him. The love for the game never left him, but the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to lead, the pressure to carry franchises on his back year after year. That pressure was a quiet storm that followed him everywhere. And as he got older, that storm grew heavier. By the time Donovan Mitchell reached 29, the world saw a superstar. But his close circle saw a man holding pain behind a brilliant smile. Not just physical pain, though his body took more hits than anyone realized, but emotional exhaustion too. The responsibility of being the face of a team, of constantly needing to be the hero, of carrying the expectations of millions, it adds up. And it added up fast. The turning point came quietly, in a moment the world didn't see. It wasn't a game-winning shot, or a missed opportunity, or a headline that broke the internet. It was a moment that happened far away from the noise. Just Donovan, sitting alone after another game where he delivered everything he had. And somehow, it still didn't feel like enough. He sat there, shoes unlaced, head bowed, hands shaking. Not from fatigue, but from the realization that he wasn't okay. That he had been playing through injuries worse than anyone knew. That he had been carrying emotional weight heavier than anything he'd ever lifted in the gym. That he had been pushing himself past his breaking point, night after night, because he never wanted to let anyone down. At 29, Donovan Mitchell faced the truth he spent years avoiding. He was human, and humans break. The pain in his legs had been worsening for months. Doctors warned him. Trainers begged him to slow down. But Donovan couldn't. Not when the team needed him. not when fans looked up to him, not when kids watched his every move, hoping to be like him one day. But the body doesn't negotiate forever. That year, after a string of games where he pushed far beyond what was safe, the injury he had been hiding finally caught up to him. Every player gets hurt. It's part of the game. But what hit Donovan wasn't just physical. It was emotional. It was the realization that he had spent so long being strong for everyone else that he forgot to take care of himself. And when he finally stepped away, even briefly, it shattered him. Not because he feared being forgotten, but because he feared disappointing the people who believed in him the most. Yet somehow, in that heartbreak, something changed. For the first time in years, Donovan allowed himself to breathe, to heal, to be vulnerable. He opened up to the people closest to him. He talked about the pressure, the fear, the exhaustion. He talked about the pain he hid behind every post-game interview, and it didn't make him weaker. It made him human. It made him real. And in that vulnerability, something beautiful happened. He rediscovered the love for the game he fell in love with as a kid. Not the pressure, not the expectations, not the weight, but the joy, the pure, simple joy. And that became the turning point that truly defined him. Because the story of Donovan Mitchell isn't a tragedy. It's a reminder that heroes are human too. That strength doesn't come from pretending everything is fine, but from admitting when it's not. And at 29, Donovan Mitchell showed the world a different kind of greatness. Not the kind found in stats or highlights, but the kind found in honesty, courage, and heart. What happened to Donovan Mitchell at 29 wasn't the end of his story. It was the moment he finally became whole. And when you see the truth behind it, when you feel the weight he carried and the pain he hid, it's almost impossible not to cry. But Donovan Mitchell's story didn't end in that quiet room where he finally admitted the truth to himself. In many ways, that moment was only the beginning of a new chapter he never expected to write. Because after the shock, after the fear, after the weight of everything he'd been holding inside finally spilled over, something else rose within him. Something stronger, quieter, but more powerful than anything he had ever carried before. It was clarity. Clarity that he had spent years trying to outrun his own limits. Clarity that he had buried his pain under expectation after expectation. Clarity that the world loved him for how high he could jump, but never knew how heavy his heart had become. And in that understanding, he made a decision. Not to quit, not to surrender, but to rise again. Differently this time. He began to rebuild not as the superhero everyone wanted him to be, but as the man he truly was beneath the jersey. The first step was healing. And healing is never easy for someone who has spent their entire life pretending they didn't need it. The physical rehab was painful, slow, and humbling. But the emotional healing was even harder. He had to relearn how to trust his body, how to trust his instincts, how to trust that it was okay to stop pretending everything was fine. Along the way, he talked to people he hadn't opened up to in years, reconnecting with family, friends, mentors, the voices who had been waiting for him to take off the armor he wore every time he stepped onto the court. And through those conversations, he found something he didn't expect. He wasn't alone. So many players, so many athletes, so many people who lived under the spotlight knew exactly how he felt. And hearing their stories made him realize that weakness wasn't weakness at all. It was the doorway to strength he had never allowed himself to explore. When Donovan finally returned to the court, it wasn't with the same reckless intensity he used to play with. It was with a deeper understanding of himself. The crowd cheered the moment they saw him, not because he was perfect, but because he was human, because he had been honest, because he had survived the kind of internal battle most people never speak about. He played with a different fire now, not the fire of someone trying to prove the world wrong, but the fire of someone who knew himself, truly, for the first time. And with every game, every shot, every moment where he pushed through doubt and found confidence again, he discovered joy in the game in ways he hadn't felt since he was a kid dribbling on worn concrete. At 29, Donovan Mitchell learned that your breaking point can become your turning point, and that sometimes the most important victories don't happen under bright lights, but in silence, when nobody's watching. And that became the heart of his story. Because he didn't just return to basketball, he returned to himself. The world saw a star stepping back onto the court, but those who truly understood saw something much deeper. A man who had faced his own shadow and walked through it. They saw a man who refused to be defined by injuries, pressure, or expectations. They saw someone who wasn't done yet, not even close. And as the seasons moved forward, Donovan carried that new strength with him, not as a burden this time, but as a reminder of everything he had survived. The cheers felt different now. The wins felt different. Even the losses taught him something. He was no longer just chasing greatness. He was living it through authenticity, through courage, through vulnerability. And that's why his story continues to resonate, because it reminds us that even those who seem unbreakable have moments where life brings them to their knees. But true greatness is found in the way they rise afterward. Donovan Mitchell rose, and he's still rising. Donovan Mitchell's journey didn't end with pain or doubt. It transformed him. At 29, he faced his limits, embraced vulnerability, and rebuilt himself physically and emotionally, finding strength, clarity, and resilience. Every step on the court became a testament to his survival, his humanity, and his unwavering spirit, showing the world that true greatness is forged through struggle, perseverance, and self-discovery.